Well, hello, this is Student Forecast to Stephen Boyle for Northeast Weather Center. Well, here's what's going on across the country today, and there's nothing much going on here in the Northeast. However, there's more active weather, excuse me, in the Midwest. This is going to prompt for some severe weather out there. So if you know anybody who lives in the Midwestern sections of the country, just be very vigilant about that. But for the most part, things are looking spectacular today across the Northeast and New England. We do still have some flood issues here into Massachusetts, as of course the river levels are pretty high with all of this major rain that we've been seeing over the past several days. As you can see, we are clear today, looking fabulous. There is nothing going on here into the Northeast, just some nice clear skies. This is part of our next system. This is going to prompt for some severe weather later on today across the plain states. So here's what's going on. You can see here is that front from yesterday that created those hefty rains, those thunderstorms, and ahead of it we had some muggy air. There's another system diving down. We have this one out in here, so there's a lot going on across the country. And we also have our little friend down here, our little tropical depression that's kind of meandering around and not doing all that much. But again, question is once we get into, if it can get into this section of the Gulf, because there's no shear in this section of the Gulf, it would be more favorable for development. So, but again, if it continues tracking the way it's looking, it would just go over land and just create some hefty rains. That's really all it looks like it'll do. So, the question here is are we going to see a heat wave next week? And my thoughts are yes. I really do. And actually, let's just zoom into the Northeast. This will kind of take care of that. So again, here's the Northeast, and again, you can see there's that rain from yesterday. You can see there it is, down there towards North Carolina and South Carolina. But other than that, looking like a spectacular day. Could be a few pop-up showers and thunderstorms into a few scattered locations. As of course, we could get some daytime heating, and again, maybe a few scattered showers with our upcoming disturbance that's back in here. Whether or not this thing moves through and creates some issues is still unknown. However, you can see that the NAM is hinting that, hey, there could be some showers that move through New England and maybe even a thunderstorm on Saturday. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Okay, so that's the NAM. Let's look at the GFS. And here it is. And chilly night tonight. It's going to be yet another chilly night. Why? Well, we have this area of high pressure right in here. And basically, you have a counterclockwise flow. So folks in these areas are pretty warm. But again, the air filtering down to the Northeast and New England is coming in from the north and northwest. So guess what? These folks in here are having some very chilly air into this section of the country. So pretty chilly stuff, but nice, comfortable, dry, very, very nice. So again, you can see eventually this high moves to the east, and once it moves offshore, that's when things could get warm and pretty sticky. You can actually see the flow of, you can kind of see the flow coming in from the south and southwest. This is prompting for very warm weather for a lot of the Northeast. Not just the Mid-Atlantic this time. This would include New England. And my thoughts are right now is that many areas of the Northeast will be reaching the 90s. I think many areas could see some mid-90s. Maybe even getting close to, into some areas, close to 100. Here's some storms that look to be popping up ahead of a front. which is back out in here. Again, it's normal to see this kind of stuff because, again, we have the very extreme heat. For the most part, though, this pattern looks to continue, mainly 80s, and again, we could get some fronts moving through, creating some rain and thunderstorms. So that's the GFS. Now looking at the Euro, this is what it's looking like. I don't know why this keeps popping up, but so here's the Euro, and basically there's that rain. It's moving offshore. Basically, you can see eventually our high is going to set up shop somewhere in here. And once that high sets up in here, we're going to get a nice south-southwesterly flow right through the whole entire eastern section of the country. And remember, when you have a south-southwesterly flow, we have very warm air in Texas and in Mexico, and all of that air is going to get pulled up north. And of course, with all the moisture we have in the air here in New England in the Northeast, things are going to get sticky very quickly. We could get some scattered showers and thunderstorms, obviously, from time to time. Again, it's normal to see these kinds of things. Eventually, we'll cool down a little bit as we get a trough that'll eventually come through. But for the most part, it looks like summer is coming and will be pretty much here to stay. So that's the Euro. Now looking at the temperatures, this is what it's looking like here as far as temperatures go. So again, this is overdoing it a little bit. It's not going to be this warm today. We are not going to see as many 80s. So the NAM is a little off on its temperatures, but you could probably subtract a good 5 degrees from this, and this is most likely what you're going to probably be seeing today. So probably 70s across a good chunk of the Northeast today, with 80s down into the Mid-Atlantic, and maybe even some 90s back down into the Ohio River Valley, southern Ohio, but for the most part, everybody will be seeing comfortable conditions. Yes, there could be some frost tonight into portions of New York State, particularly folks who live along the border of Pennsylvania and New York. There could even be some patchy frost into the Berkshires and into portions of southern New England. But for folks who live out in the rest of Massachusetts, southern New England, I'm not too worried about that. Looks as though things will probably be quite comfortable tonight. Chilly, but it won't be all that. We won't be getting much frost. Again, probably overdoing the temperatures a little bit, but that's what it's looking like for tomorrow, according to the NAM. Some 80s. And again, this is on Friday, and this is when I think things start really warming up. I think we start seeing 80s coming into the picture on Friday, maybe even some mid-80s. And then again, it'll be by Saturday that things will really start heating up, and we'll start seeing this push of warm air across the Northeast, and you can already see the heat starting to bubble into Massachusetts. So that's what my thinking is at this particular point, and this is 7 p.m. on Saturday. Notice 70 degrees. All right, so that's the NAM. Now looking at the GFS. The GFS has actually been pretty right on, I believe, as far as temperatures go. This is what it's looking like right now. You can see mid-70s today, so this is pretty correct as far as I'm concerned. 65 to 70 degrees across a good chunk of Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Also, we have 70 to 75 degrees across most of New England, some 75 to 80 degree temperatures across portions of southern New England, New Jersey, and then you start seeing your 80s and 90s once you go back down into Virginia and West Virginia. Moving on here, you can see tonight, there could be some frost, particularly across the border of Pennsylvania and New York, the Adirondacks, and also extreme northern Vermont. There could be some pretty chilly conditions, but not only that, though, it'll even be pretty chilly down here into southern New England, where we could be seeing some areas dropping down into the 30s, but again, you can definitely tell that we have a chilly air mass in place here. So tomorrow things will be a little bit warmer. You can now see that we have some mid 70s across Massachusetts. We have those mid 70s now extending down, and we have those 80s in Virginia. You can see these 90s starting to pop up into portions of Pennsylvania and Ohio. And as we continue to work our way on through, you can see Friday even warmer. We're starting to see those mid 80s now starting to press into southern New England. And notice by Saturday, we have those 90s that are starting to come in here into southern New England. And this is going to be some pretty hot stuff. This is the real summertime heat. And notice we have these 90s and even hundreds back out in here. And this is what's on the way towards the north and east. And notice that exactly that happens. You can see we now start seeing those mid 90s starting to pop up into Connecticut, Massachusetts. You can also see these hundreds back down in here. Pretty hot stuff into the DC area as well. It could even be a little bit warmer than this. I wouldn't be surprised, especially next Monday. Next Monday is looking pretty intense. We have these 100-degree temperatures back out in here, mainly mid-90s across a good chunk of New England. This is some pretty hot stuff. You can see these, you can see these mid-80s going all the way up to the tippity top of Maine, to extreme northern Maine. You can see that. Notice we have mainly 85 to 90 degrees across a good chunk of the Northeast. Not many regions seeing cooler than that, unless you go on the ocean. And that's where you get the real relief. And notice Tuesday is even warmer. We have our 95-degree temperatures overspreading Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut. A little bit cooler down in here, but notice once you get into the DC area, things really get hot. You can see those hundreds. So it's going to be a pretty intense heat that we get here next week. And then notice here, Wednesday, same deal. We're still seeing those 90s and even some of those hundreds. And then notice that we have our 70s and 80s that come behind the front. Notice we cool back down into the 70s and 80s. And then again, you can see 70s and 80s continuing. But notice this major warm-up that we have next by Saturday the 29th. You can see these 90s and again 100s that are going to eventually move east, and it's just going to create some more heat. And again, it'll be basically, we'll have these kind of waves of warm and cool, but basically for the most part, I think after this week is finished, I think we're going to start seeing some very warm air, summer-like air coming on in, and it'll be a prolonged period of 85 to 90 degree temperatures. So that's what it's looking like right now. And again, pretty soon I will be putting out my preliminary winter outlook. As of course, I probably won't be doing it this week. It'll probably be next week that I'll get that in, and it'll cool us down. Of thinking about winter, it'll cool us down and keep us cool. But for now, that's what it's looking like. I hope you all have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll be back later on in the week with yet another update. Take care, everyone.